Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. We have a great show planned for you today, and hey, it's going to be a lot of fun. In the second part of the program, we'll be doing computer and technology news with any time allotted. Hey, it's where we do our best to keep you up to date on news and new products and announcements. It takes up a lot of time, and we can't imagine having an actual day job and being able to do it, so we tried to do that for you. But in the first part of the program, it's always dedicated to a fantastic guest, and today's going to be no different, where we are going to have a company called Positech Tools, and we're going to be talking about, WORX, and really automating some of those peskier household chores, including things like, mowing the lawn, and just how artificial intelligence and really, just I guess a style of drone can really help your life and really free it up without hopefully grinding up squirrels in the process. So everyone, before we get started, computeramerica.com, that's going to be our website. It's where you'll find everything, including the show notes. It's where you'll find links to our guest website. Any topics that we talk about, any articles that we reference, anything like that will be found at computeramerica.com after the show. Also, while you're there, check out the podcast, check out social media at Computer America across all of them. And hey, we have a bunch of articles, reviews. We're actually working on a review now of the I think it's like the 270 QG or something like that. It's the ViewSonic gaming monitor. It's actually very cool. So, and we have a book and stuff like that. So, hey, Computer America, we update it all the time. Check it out. Now, so morning announcements are done. Why don't we go ahead and introduce our guest and just, hey, get started with this. So joining us today is, as I said before, Positech Tools and WORX, WORX.com, if you'd like to check out the website. But hey, we have a great person here to explain everything that they do and really how they do it. So joining us is Mr. Tom Duncan, and Tom Duncan. He is Executive Board Chair for Positech Tools. And Tom, welcome on to Computer America. How you doing?
Thanks, Ben. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Yeah, happy that you could join us. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to our interview because we met out at CES, and it's a huge trade show, lots of new technology, lots of new products, and I guess a lot of ways that we could start this, but I think the best way to start it is a bit of background on yourself, a bit of background on Positech Tools and WORX. So if you could, just kind of introduce us to yourself and the company.
Sure. We started the WORX brand, launched about 15 years ago. And basically, we are a manufacturer and distributor of power tools and garden equipment. And what's unique about Positech and about our WORX brand is that everything we make is either electric or battery powered. the majority of which are battery powered. We have a concept that we call power share, which means that the same battery will power all of our cordless tools,
Mm.
whether that's a string trimmer, a cordless drill, a saw, whatever. It's all powered by the same battery pack. And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's and of course that idea we just had on the show a little bit ago, Visa and of course DisplayPort 2.0, and really it's a running theme on the show, standardization and how everything should just kind of work together,
Right.
and it makes everyone's lives easier. Now, before and we still need your background, but we'll get that in a second. I do want to address, I guess, kind of the first reaction a lot of people have to electric tools is that when it comes to power tools, gas powered, and engines have always been, they've been around for a long time. And when electric tools kind of first came to market, everyone was like, those things are they're small, they're cheap, they're lightweight, they don't really do any kind of job very well. We have come a long way in battery technology, and how would you kind of respond to people who maybe steer away from electric tools because they think that it can't get the job done?
Well, I mean, man, I think you're seeing the same thing happen in all kinds of battery tools as you're seeing happening in the automobile industry today. I mean, when we started the company 15 years ago, who would have thought we would have, something like a Tesla Model S out there that's run on literally a battery pack.
Right.
And so, yeah, you're seeing a lot of new technology in batteries, not only in batteries, but also in charging technologies and everything else. And so, where we're at today, especially in outdoor power equipment, when you talk about gas and gas powered equipment, that's mainly in yard tools. We're seeing now products that have all the power, all the performance, and really starting to get to the point where now we have the same runtime as a tank of gasoline. So you're really not seeing any difference today in what you're getting, and in a lot of ways, you're seeing much more improved performance from battery products. So
Yeah, I certainly know that. I've used a couple in the yard, and I guess having that ability to vary up, I guess kind of, if you want a lot of output from your battery, if you just want like a moderate amount, you can extend that
right.
battery life. Things like that control of the finer details that you just don't have with a standard gas powered piece of equipment, definitely a perk. And another perk is that, hey, it's a battery. And what in our lives involving technology doesn't run on a battery? And that
Right.
is my best attempt at a segue to talk, because you have a full line of products. Some of them are, some pretty standard ones. Looking here on the website, you're looking at things like, of course, your workbenches, your wheelbarrow, stuff like that. But we're here to talk about something that you were showing off at CES. And before we start talking about the Landroid Robotic Mower, let me just ask you, how was CES? Did you have a good year out there?
Oh, we had a great show. I think we're in a category where you're starting to see a shift from smart home products, and what we're seeing is actually a shift even further into the smart yard.
The
And
smart
so you're
yard.
seeing a
Yeah.
lot of new products over that. Yeah, so I think this is our first product that we're launching in this new platform to try to automate a lot of the things that you're tied to your lawn, whether it's mowing your lawn or trimming your lawn or watering your lawn. You're seeing a lot of new smart technologies kind of take over those categories.
Absolutely. And so I said the name of it, and we're going to go ahead and put it up on screen for anyone watching the video portion. But for everyone else out there, I would like you to, Tom, I would like you to kind of describe it for everyone, because I can't just say, oh, it's an outdoor Roomba. It's much more than that. This is a big piece of equipment.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot. I mean, obviously, your yard is a lot more complicated because you have squirrels running around, you have
Hmm.
weather, you have a lot of different things that you're having to deal with when you talk about maneuvering around your yard. And a little bit different than a Roomba that's in kind of your house and is a little bit more confined space.
Right.
But I'll tell you the story. The story is we've been in the lawnmower business ever since we started, and so we've always had this R&D process of trying to come up with a lawnmower that's easier to use. Whether that's battery power or whatever, and or it folds up so it stores neatly in your garage, and it has all the bells and whistles to make mowing your lawn easier. And but the ultimate game, when we first saw this idea of robotics in your lawn, I mean, it takes it really to the next level, and that is eliminating you having to mow your lawn at all. And we kind of joke about it. The one thing about yard work is the grass is always growing.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter when it comes March and April, that grass is going to start to grow, and it's almost like you're trying to keep up with it, right? You have to go on vacation for a week, or you don't mow the lawn for a week, and it all of a sudden it starts to get up, and you become the pariah of the neighborhood because your grass is 8 inches tall. So this is what makes, I think, this product and getting into this idea of having robotics in your yard so appealing to consumers.
So there's a lot to go over here, including the basic specs and things like that. I think I want to start though with some of the challenges, and actually let me even take a step back from there. Whenever someone comes on the show talking about a new product, I like to ask them what has been the catalyst, what's been a real change in technology that let them kind of bring this product to market. And so I'm going to ask you, is this the dream that you were talking about before when you first saw these things to today? Was it about charging technology? Was it about the user interface and smartphones coming up to speed? Was it the intelligence and within the machine itself? And I see that actually I was Googling this product, and I saw that you had a previous iteration as well. What has improved, and what has allowed you to kind of start doing this?
Oh, yeah, that's funny. Looking back at the first one we launched, I guess about 5 years ago, and looking at the each. Now, I think this is our third generation
Hmm.
of robotic Landroids, and just the technology difference that we have today versus where we were back then. I mean, we had no connectivity. You had none of the different technologies, whether that's what we call AIA, which is a software and firmware that allows it to avoid obstacles. So there's a lot of new technologies that we're introducing from what we had, just 5 years ago. It's amazing. And so,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Oh, and sorry to cut you off there, but of course, I'm sure that battery technology as well, being able to actually finish the job and not be like, oh, well, I'm halfway done, but I got to go charge.
yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people, the first thing when you talk about, robotic lawnmowers, their first question is, well, how long will it run on a charge? Which, if you have a Roomba or a vacuum in your house, you realize that it really doesn't matter how long, because it goes back and charges itself. And so
Right.
we have self-charging docking station. So it will go out and mow until it realizes it needs to go back and charge its own battery, and it'll go back and charge. If it needs to mow some more, it will. And I think what's really cool about, and when you talk about what different technologies we've been able to introduce in each different model, the newest one is really starting to, where we've introduced the smartphone app. And that's where now you're seeing a whole proliferation of different artificial intelligence, especially like, we have what we call a drop and mow. So basically, you can just put this in your yard.
Hmm.
We have a way for you basically to take your smartphone, walk around the perimeter of your yard. It will calculate the area that it needs to mow, and then the technology and the software will decide how long it needs to mow. What time. All of those things, whether it's raining, whether it's not raining, all of those things now are capable, now that you have all of this connectivity and you have this smartphone app that basically becomes the brains of the hardware, right?
So, because you mentioned it, and just real quick, depending on weather, why does it matter? Obviously, myself as a person, I don't want to mow the yard in the rain because
Right.
I would get wet. Uh, Does this have any qualms about mowing in the rain? Should it just not do that for, kind of it'll gunk up the machine? Uh, what will it do if it starts raining?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if it's just a slight sprinkle, I mean, it has a rain sensor on it. So if it starts to rain to a certain degree, it will realize and go back to its charging base and a lot, or under its little garage. Now we're selling a new little carport garage, so it'll go back to that. But you know, the problem really is not in the mowing. It can still mow when it's raining. The issue becomes, leaving tracks in your yard, and when it gets really wet and kind of moist,
Hmm.
sometimes those wheels will start spinning, and it may, dig up your yard, and you don't want that. So,
Mm.
much better to mow when it's a little bit drier and the ground is a lot firmer, especially if you have any kind of inclines or something in your yard. You don't want this thing running up it in a wet, mucky kind of situation.
I got you. I got you.
So,
No, and thank you for explaining that. So, uh, you mentioned that you could take your smartphone and walk around it, and of course, thanks to geolocation, and I'm sure
yep.
a lot of things that are already built in to a lot of phones, you're going to be able to roughly map your yard. You'll definitely be able to do that. I wanted to ask you though, unfortunately, a lot of people don't have perfectly square, rectangular, kind of showroom style yards. Sometimes they have things in the middle. Maybe they have a pool. Maybe they have like a little feature in the middle. Maybe they have trees. Uh, finding the borders is great. What do you do when you have something that you would like the machine to avoid? Is that like a Roomba where it will learn, or do you have to map that out as well?
Yeah, right now what we have is we have an optional accessory, and what it is, it's something that we call off limits. And
Hmm.
what you do is it's basically a strip of magnetic tape, and you can just, if you've got, like, for instance, a bird bath, you've got maybe a trampoline in your backyard or somewhere where you just kind of want to, you don't want this Roomba going under
Right.
these kind of things, or maybe you have lawn furniture. You can just set this little tape, lay it down around the obstacle that you want it to avoid, and it'll just avoid it. Um, so
And of course, being able to avoid things, and I'm sure that thanks to the fact that this is probably so integrated, thanks to software, there's no saying that future updates aren't going to have further addressing these issues as well.
sure.
So, uh,
And one of the things, Ben, one of the things I think that's interesting that we've done with this model of
mhm,
Landroid, the latest version that we just launched last year, is that we've made it a modular system. So you can buy the base model, and then what you can do is add a lot of the accessories um, to, create whatever kind of features and benefits you want with your Landroid. So it's a different system that a lot of the other robot mowers that are out on the market, where you're basically either having to buy the base model with none of the upgradable features, or you're having to buy a model that has it all integrated. So what we've done is really tried to make that modular. So if you want something like off limits, which because you have obstacles in your yard, you can buy that, you can add it. If you don't want it, you don't have to pay for it.
absolutely, and really seeing these things in action is certainly something else.
Yeah.
So I was reading some of the specs here about a quarter of an acre, and I actually grew up on. I'm sorry, I actually grew up in a house on a quarter of an acre, and that's a huge yard. Obviously, people have much larger yards. A lot of people have a lot smaller yards. So would you say that this and actually, and I guess, sorry, I'm rambling here. My point with this is that, would you recommend this for all different kinds of yards, or is this going to be someone who just has like a backyard and something like that? Who would you say is the best use case for your product?
Well, I'll tell you, Ben, we have several different models. So we have an M model, which to your point is up to a quarter acre. We also have a L model, which is our larger model, which will work on yards greater than a quarter an acre. And one thing you have to remember is, I know most people know their acreage. Like, I know I live on a quarter acre lot, but actually your yard is much smaller than
Right.
that. So even though you live on a quarter acre lot, your yard may be an eighth of an acre or even
True.
less.
True.
So um, it's important, because what we try to do is tell you how much of a yard we can mow. So, you know, And like I said, you can buy different models, and also you can change the batteries. We have the battery is interchangeable, so that if you want more runtime, if you want it to run on a larger yawn, you can just buy a longer runtime battery, and it'll run longer and mow a larger area. So
No,
it's very modular in that sense.
oh yeah, for sure. Just watching your demo video, and much to your point that we made at the beginning, the same power supply that you would have for your pressure washer, that you would have for your weed whacker, things like that, would just slip right into this.
Your cordless drill, I mean, the battery that runs our Landroid will run any of our products, which is really nice because it's also, you've always got to charge battery at least when it's sitting in your Landroid. So,
True, and of course, we're also looking at the app. Why don't we talk real quick about the app and the
sure,
smartphone and
sure.
what someone can do with that?
Yeah. Well, right now, like I said, one of the major features, besides giving you updates and telling you when there's issues with your lawnmower, one of the big features is to be able to automatically program. So you're not sitting there having to program. Do you want it to go Wednesday from 3 to 5 p.m.? Forget all that. You can just basically walk around your yard, calculate the area that it needs to mow, and the software will decide how long it needs to be out there mowing on a daily basis, whether it needs to mow every day, every other day. That's kind of nice. Now, but then you can, of course, manually decide. Even, the great thing about these lawnmowers is, they're really super quiet. So I know a lot of people that program them to mow, from 2 a.m. in the morning until 5 a.m. in the morning
Mm.
because it's so quiet. You don't have to worry about disturbing your neighbors or anything like that. And then it allows the daytime for your kids to be out on the lawn, enjoying the lawn as well. So you don't have to worry about their lawnmower running around during the daytime. Um,
That's certainly a perk that I didn't even consider because obviously when I had to mow the lawn, it happened monthly, and if they were lucky, bi-monthly. I was very very lackadaisical when it came to
yeah,
mowing my lawn. But hey, I don't think that you have programmed the robotic lawn mower to complain. So if you wanted to mow your yard, every day or every other day, it would do it so happily, I guess.
right, right. And
Very cool.
it's really different. Most people you kind of have to change the paradigm when you think about lawn mowing. Most of them you think about this big gas mower with this big heavy steel blade. When actuality, when you start talking about robot mowers, it doesn't have a big heavy blade. It's really mowing your lawn with really razor blades because it's mowing so frequently that it's really just shaving your yard. So it's not cutting off an inch of grass. It's literally cutting off just a millimeter of grass because it's doing it so often. It's really doing it every day. And so your lawn looks the same every day. It's not, getting long and then
Yeah.
cutting down and getting long and then cutting down. And the other benefit of that is, everybody talks about what do you do with the clippings? Well, really, the clippings are so small that they really just fall back down into the yard and act as like a fertilizer. And there have been a lot of research and stuff done with these, comparing lawns that have been cut with a robot mower versus a typical push mower. And you're finding that these robotically mown lawns are much healthier. And because of all the nutrients are just, regenerated back down into the soil.
Well, and really, some people get very, very particular about their lawns. I gotta say that,
Oh, yes.
if you listen to my one friend, everyone would only ever use push mowers, like not even ones with like motors or anything like that. Just and that's only because I don't think they can recommend out there with scissors, on your hands and knees. But that's very interesting that you've done those, that you've looked into the research about how this affects the health of a really of a lawn. And I got to say though that immediately I think, well, don't throw out the mower just yet. Let's say you want to set this thing up and you haven't mowed the lawn for a certain amount of time. Is there a maximum grass height that you kind of have to, kind of start with, and then it will maintain, or does it have any issues with, kind of, I don't say larger lawns, but
Yeah. Yeah,
more
man.
grass.
Yeah, the mower will mow up above a little bit above 4 inches. So, and really, what you do is if you get into a situation where the grass has grown what we recommend is just basically, setting it to its highest setting,
Mhm.
letting it mow, come back, set it, a half an inch shorter, let it mow, let it do that for a day, and just keep ratcheting it down until you get to the height that you normally mow at. So it is doable.
Yeah.
Obviously you don't want it to grow too high, and then it's a little bit hard. But yeah,
Yeah, okay, no, I definitely completely understand. So with I, yeah, this thing is so cool. So, uh, another feature that I really want to, kind of think about, and right off the top of my head, I could think of a couple ways, including geofencing. If this thing leaves your yard and decides, I feel like mowing everything in the world except this yard. If something went completely haywire, or really the use case in my head that, or at least the case in my head, someone comes up and just picks it up and steals it.
yep.
That would not be good. Is there some kind of safety feature? Does it alert you when it's left a certain amount of geolocation or geofencing? Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely, that's an issue. And we offer one of the upgradable options that we offer is something called Find My Landroid. And basically, it is a GPS chip that you can install into the Landroid. And then with the app, you can find out exactly through Google Maps exactly where it is in case it does leave your yard. Now, that usually doesn't happen, but we also have the other thing about the Landroid is that it's pin coded. So even if someone did steal it, they're not going to be able to use it um, because it's pin coded. So they would have to know the pin in order to activate it in another yard. Number one.
Hmm.
Number two, there is an alarm system. So when you pick it up, number one, it immediately shuts off, which is a safety issue, which
Right.
is another issue we should really talk about because I know a lot of people when they think about this autonomous lawnmower running around their yard. Well, what about my kids and my pets and all that? And I can tell you that safety for us is absolutely paramount, and it's number one. It's the first thing we think about when we design this product, and it's the first thing we think about every new technology that we introduce. And really, when robotic lawnmowers, I will just tell you, they're very popular right now in Europe.
Yep.
If you go into Scandinavia or places in Germany or Switzerland, you're really seeing robotic lawnmowers all over the place. And the statistics tell us that they're far safer than traditional lawnmowers. I mean, a traditional lawnmower, you've got a very heavy blade spinning at a very high rate of speed, and that's dangerous should anything get in contact with that. So
Or,
robotic
or,
lawn.
or really even anyone standing close to it, because I've been hit. I've definitely been hit in the
Oh
leg.
gosh,
I've thrown stuff on
yeah.
my car. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's so the traditional mowers really, if you're talking about, even a riding lawn mower on a incline or something, there's
Hmm.
all kinds of accidents that happen, and so we think actually robotic lawnmowers are a much safer option. Um, and to that, one of the things that we've developed in one of our proprietary technologies that we offer as an option is what we call this obstacle avoidance. And what it is it's an ultrasound system that you can install on a Landroid. We call them the frog eyes. They're
Hmm.
two frog eyes. You can see them that you can install on the Landroid. And what it does is it will allow it to avoid any obstacles, whether that's a child or a tree or
Right.
a ball or anything that just happens to be in the way. Because the traditional robotic lawnmowers use a bump system, so they drive in, they bump into it, go in a different direction. Well, once you bumped into it, that's not probably the best option. So again, much safer technology to just avoid it. So
Yeah, you don't want this thing to figure out, oh, sorry, that's your foot, and then your
yeah,
foot's gone,
exactly.
and yeah, and it goes about its
Yeah.
merry way. Yeah, you certainly do have a lot of features, and of course, I know that you mentioned this where you made it kind of modular. So if you find that hey, maybe I did want the anti-collision system, you can go by and you can just
Sure.
put it down
Easy,
on
it's
it.
easy to install it. And like I said, sometimes, you get it and then you think, wow, things keep bumping into my lawn furniture or something. So maybe I do need to add that feature.
And then, of course, the other one that we're looking at, this is the I guess kind of the covered awning kind of deal that
Garage, yeah.
yeah, the garage that I can roll into. Did you find, and obviously we haven't talked about this, when it's not working, when it's not out at the yard, it's on its charging station. Its charging station, you would recommend, I guess, be somewhere, kind of like where you put like a water hose hold or something, just somewhere close to the house, out of the way.
Exactly, exactly. Wherever a nice little. I'll tell you what's interesting is, we have a really active social media,
Hmm.
works site where people can go on and talk about Landroid and share ideas and share learnings. And I'll tell you, the vast majority of the people on our Facebook page talk about what they've named their Landroid. So it does become almost like um, this member of the family as
Yeah.
you sit there and watch it running around your yard. Uh, so, and I think Mo is the number one name that we've come across as far as someone naming their Landroid. So,
Well, maybe as more people adopt this, they'll also bring some creativity to it. No, Mo is a perfectly fine name, and that's pretty darn good. So, and of course, you also mentioned so we have the Landroid M, the Landroid L, and really the big difference between those two is going to be runtime. Does the L have, is it a physically bigger unit?
it is.
And yeah.
It is. It has a slightly larger cutting capacity, cutting width, um, but it also comes with a much larger battery, so that again, it can cut more on a single charge, and so it's not in your yard all
Yeah, and really, just looking through the different models here, the top of the line, this one's going to be GPS controlled. So
day. Sure.
so the others are going to be mapped with your phone. It's going to do a little bit of memory, within itself. The GPS one, what's the use case for this?
Well, like I said, that's an added accessory that you can add on any Landroid. We just offer one that's already included because it's such a popular accessory. We go ahead and add that in to one of the models. But all of the models come Wi-Fi enabled. So it will, if you have a smaller yard and your Wi-Fi has a pretty good coverage area out into your yard, you may not need GPS. So we offer that for someone who just wants, who's getting the connectivity through their home Wi-Fi. But for some people that have a little larger yard, you may not be getting that coverage throughout your yard. So maybe you want the GPS module to be able to have the connectivity throughout your yard. And also for the Find My Landroid feature as well,
Right.
that we offer through that GPS cell chip.
So
So,
on this version, you luckily have a view of the bottom of the unit, and you can see there it looks like a rotating disc with
yes,
three what look like kind of flat razors that are sticking out
absolutely.
and kind of go on, much like you mentioned, and not a traditional mower blade. But I do want to say that replacing a mower blade pretty darn easy. You unscrew one bolt, take it off, put a new one on, you're good to go, or sharpen the blade, so on and so forth. My point is, when it comes to maintenance of parts, that's something that traditional lawnmowers, are very good at because everything's kind of out in the open. It admittedly
Right.
can make it very dangerous. How does one service or get replacement parts their own WORX robotic mower?
Yeah, well, I'll first say that, replacing these blades is super. I mean, it literally is a screwdriver and a screw. I mean, that's all it is. And they're double-sided, so you can just flip them over. Usually replace, we suggest you replace it, maybe halfway through the season, depending on how big your yard is and how much it's mowing. I mean, a lot of times if it's a smaller yard, you can go a full season with just one set of blades. So it's not something you need to do terribly often. But that's really it. I mean, when you talk about, a lot of people, you can clean the underneath. Every once in a while, people go in there and just hose it down to clean off any grass that's collected inside the mower, underneath the mower. But really, that's kind of it. I mean, there's not a whole lot of maintenance with these things, which is really nice.
Yeah, for sure. And another feature that I see pointed out quite often because I kind of grew up in Florida. Not a lot of hills. Very, very few, if
Right.
any, hills.
Right.
So I never really had to deal with this. But I see here electronics allow for mowing on hills and slopes. I don't know the challenge of a hill or a slope when it comes to mowing, but I guess there was one and you're able to compensate.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, the things, that's one thing you don't have to worry about, like a Roomba in your in your house. You don't
Right.
have 35-degree slopes in your living room, which we have to deal with, unfortunately, when we're talking about the different landscapes that these mowers are going to have to navigate. But it does. It goes up to 35-degree slope, and and the software and the firmware that we developed realizes when it's on a slope, changes the traction control within the wheelbase, and so yeah.
Very, very cool. And then I guess one of the last little features here that we haven't mentioned, although seems like you're, again, you're really making a point about this, the cut to edge feature. And this is, even myself, I would go out, I would mow my lawn, and then I would go and edge my lawn because you got to,
Sure.
there's brushing your teeth, and then there's brushing your teeth and taking a mint.
Right.
It's just something that makes your lawn look so much better. What is cut to, or, how does cut to edge work? What is it?
Well, it's kind of exactly what you would think it is, and that is that we've designed our robot mower. We have a proprietary design where we've actually offset the cutting disc. So as you can see from the underneath,
Yeah.
it's offset to the side. And so what that allows you to do is cut much closer to the edge, so you're not leaving these huge swaths of uncut grass along the sides or edges of your lawn. And that's really one of the most popular features when we talk about feedback from customers. They really love the fact that it really cuts and minimizes that amount of edging that they have to go back and do to clean up their yard.
So
It really eliminates your
one and sorry to cut you off there, but one I guess one strategy that I've seen other robotic lawnmowers kind of utilize was that they weren't that intelligent because they would let you essentially control it from your phone. You would sit out in your yard with your phone as a joystick kind of deal, and you would mow your yard almost like you would control a drone, except of course it's cutting your grass. You don't have any feature that you sit out there and you play with it like a toy. It's there, it's automated, it's good to go, right?
Exactly. I mean, our whole goal is to eliminate lawn mowing, to let you
Yeah.
do things that you really enjoy, right? You want to spend your weekends not sitting there having to push a lawnmower or feel guilty that you didn't push the lawnmower this week, and so your lawn is getting too long. So yeah, it really is. When we talked about, I talked about us trying to create better and better lawnmowers, and then we saw the robotics, and we're like, hey, this is the answer because it eliminates the task completely. And what can be better than that? If it's something that you don't really like doing, if you feel like it's a pain,
Mhm.
um, this is something that eliminates that from your life.
Hey, and that should always be the goal. And as a homeowner, uh, any little regular chore you can take off your, can take off your list. Man, that saves you so much time in a year. So,
Yeah.
we so a couple things we haven't talked about price, and we haven't talked about where you kind of see it's going next. I know that you just said that last year you launched this third generation, but
Sure.
these products they never stand still long, and I'm sure you're already working
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
some of the new features. Yeah, just like that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about price first, and then we'll talk about where you see this going.
Sure. And yeah, so our entry level M model
Hmm.
starts just under $1,000. And then, of course, you can buy different features and different accessories and options from there. The L model starts at about $1,200. Um, and when that's certainly not a cheap product, but when you look at it from the idea of most people, they're paying, they may pay $100, $200 for someone to come mow their lawn on a monthly basis. And
Hmm.
so what we're finding is most people are going to pay for these things um, within a year. If you're maybe one season, you could make that cover the cost of the Landroid just by not having to have someone come and cut your yard on a weekly basis. And of course, for those people who are cutting the yards themselves, I mean, you know, what's the price of your free time? What's the price of having your weekends free and not having to worry about mowing your lawn?
And maybe I'm just a bit of a nerd, but and obviously as host of Computer America, I am contractually obligated to be a bit of a nerd. Uh, I'm sure I'm not saying that you do this because it would impress your neighbors, but it's certainly different. And I'm not sure if you have seen the reaction from people who've seen this in action, or you mentioned your social media sites, kind of the reaction to just kind of having one and getting your neighbor's perspective. This must really kind of be interesting to see.
It's interesting, Ben, because what we'll find is one person within the neighborhood will buy a Landroid, put it in their yard, and literally you start seeing it like a viral. All of a sudden, it starts popping up in other neighbors' yards because they're very intrigued. And if you want to stop someone while they're walking their dog, just put a robot lawnmower running around your yard. You'll get every one of your neighbors stopping and sitting there watching it. So
Yeah,
it's definitely that kind of that piece of technology that people will. It's out there to see, so it's kind of cool when people see it actually running around someone's yard.
Yeah, I can certainly see that. And my second question was, how do you see a product like the Landroid developing? Because obviously, from 2 to 3, I'm sure that you added battery life, you added, I'm sure more slope and stuff like that, making every little part of it better. That's kind of I don't say iterative technology, but yeah, that's the point. But what new features are you hoping, you know, again, thanks to either better Wi-Fi signaling or anything like that? How do you see this developing?
Well, I think you're seeing a lot of new technologies, and a lot of the new technologies are macro technologies that are happening, whether that's 5G or whether that's vision technology, lidar technology. A lot of the same technologies you're seeing in in the automotive
Yeah.
section for self-driving cars are the same ones you're going to be seeing in robotic lawn mowing. And so we're looking at a lot of those technologies. One of the things that probably the number one thing today is that, all of the robotic lawnmowers today, you basically have to lay this small little boundary wire. And basically it's a small little wire that you just kind of staple down below the level of the grass. You don't have to bury it. You just kind of lay it around your yard to kind of set the perimeter so that the lawnmower knows where the boundaries of your yard are.
Right.
And it won't go around, it won't go over that boundary wire, kind of like an electric fence for your dog. And what we're seeing, probably the next iteration you'll see of the technologies, it will get rid of that boundary wire. And you'll start seeing, just
Kind of
robot.
self-mapping within itself, just
Yeah,
so
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, you'll see them. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different technologies that can be applied to that, but as we get better at geolocation, obviously with a robot lawnmower, you have to be pretty precise. You can't, normal GPS being a meter, or 3 to 4 feet doesn't really work when you're trying to mow your lawn, right? You have to be within centimeters so that you're accurate to be able to mow your lawn correctly. So, as we get much better in the accuracy of some of our geolocation technologies, I think you'll see those, start to be introduced into robotic lawn mowing.
So now, and this is obviously completely free. I'm not going to charge you for this, but some of the ideas that come to mind when I think about this, and one of them is going to be, of course, you mentioned that you have things like the rain sensor. If there was a way to tie in maybe the app that would, kind of say that, oh, it's been in Florida especially, it's been raining for the past 5 days. The grass, once it has a nice warm sunny day, it's just going to grow like crazy. Maybe go from one time a day to twice a day or something like that, and really be I don't say flexible with the weather, but be responsive to outside data, including things like weather.
Right. Well, I can tell you right now, Ben, great minds think alike, because that's a feature that we have introduced in the new app that will be for 2020 that we're introducing. Not only that, but what we're finding is we also have a grass type selector. So you can select what type of grass you have in your yard, because like you say, depending on the weather, different grasses grow at different rates. And so all of those things now are going to be used to help the Landroid decide how much more or less it needs to be mowing on a regular basis. You're right. We have now a weather feed that'll be coming into the smart app. So the rain sensor is more of just one of those things where, for example, if your sprinkler system came on,
Yeah.
You'd want that rain sensor so your robot's not out there mowing while it's getting sprinkled on. So really now we're using much more, to your point, of the weather feed and that data set to be able to decide, when to mow, when not to mow, and how much to mow.
That's very good that you've thought of that before I did. And of course, the other one, I'm sure that a lot of people out there have very nice Kentucky bluegrass or
Right.
whatever grass that they have. I don't know if you have a Bermuda grass, crabgrass setting, but that's generally what I grew up with. So best of luck with that. This stuff is tough. So the other one, and this is actually kind of an aside, because of my background, we had a pool growing up. All of our neighbors had a pool growing up. Everyone has a pool in Florida because where else are you going to swim? The ocean. So the next one is, of course, technology like this. We have very, very dumb ones that just kind of take water pressure and they stick to the side and they, kind of go randomly. They go up, they fall, whatever. And eventually they'll cover enough ground that they'll clean your pool. Have you ever considered something like this where, you have a pool cleaning unit? Because it doesn't seem that far away from, actually, it seems a lot easier because it's kind of contained inside a pool.
Yeah. It is, yeah, and to be honest with you, we're looking at a lot of different products that take care of you. Whether that's a pool cleaner, snow remover.
Hmm.
Live
Yeah.
in the, getting out there and trying to clear the snow when it's minus 20 degrees in the mornings is not the most
Enjoyable, right?
enjoyable task. So again, when you look at robotics, we call it. I think there's this old maxim that anything that's dirty, dull, or dangerous is really where you want to try to use robotics. And certainly, mowing the grass can be dull. Throwing the snow off your driveway can be dull. So any of those areas, we're also looking at where we can apply this kind of technology.
That and hey, you have much like a lot of other kind of beginning of technology. You mentioned automated cars and cars that will be driving themselves. It's such a we're at the beginning stages of these technologies, and there's so much room to grow. I guess because of the nature of your company and WORX in general, and just the fact that you have so much experience in people's yards, in people's garages, in people's homes. You're in a very, very good position to, I guess, kind of capitalize on this new technology. So this is awesome. And I say awesome, everyone, if you want to go check it out, works.com, WORX, although I should probably let Tom here have the last word. If people want to find out more information, where can they go? And I just mentioned the website. So
Easy. Go to mylandroid.com
even
and
easier.
you can learn all about the Landroid and all the other great products that we have at WORX.
Perfect. And hey, we'll include that as well. You can see them all right there. Once again, everything will be up in the show notes, and I think that's about it. Unless there's any part that we didn't discuss or anything that you wanted to touch on.
No, I think it was great. I really enjoyed being with you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I really appreciate it. And again, it was great seeing you guys out at CES, being able to, take pictures and actually see the device there. Unfortunately, they did not let you out of Pepcom turn on your machine and do a live demonstration. But it was very cool to see it. And hey, if and by the way, I should also ask, where could people get one? Is this available in Lowe's, Home Depot, or is this strictly through your website right now?
Yeah, right now, most of it's available online. So you can go on any major online retailer. We're on Amazon, Lowe's.com, HomeDepot.com, and also Works.com. So you can buy it direct from our e-commerce site as well. And I'll just say, it was great seeing you out at CS. We'll see you next year. And we're going to have a lot of new products coming in 2021. So we're excited to launch a whole bevy of new products. So.
I look forward to it. This is in I always try to avoid using the word explosive when I talk about things that are powered by batteries. This is a very it's going to be a good segment. And of course, I really appreciate you coming on the show. So everyone, we have been talking to Mr. Tom Duncan. He is the executive board chair for Positech Tools. And Tom, I want to thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and do computer and technology news for the rest of the hour, but I want to say thank you. And hey, we'll certainly catch you next time. If you have something new that you've released or anything that you want to talk about, love to have you back on the show, and we'll catch you next time.
Will do. Thanks a lot, Ben. Enjoyed it.
Yep. And thanks so much. And hey, everyone, if you want to find out more, of course, check out the show notes. So everyone, let's go ahead and do computer and technology news. There's the button. So everyone, hey, what's how's it going? So today on the program, I think our first story is going to be a pretty I find it kind of I really do find it kind of funny. Not funny in the fact that there's unfortunately a virus going around in China. COVID-19 or coronavirus, whatever you want to call it. People are dying. It's not a good situation. It's nothing to really be joking about. Now, with that being said, I gotta say that Chinese authorities, and let's just get to the article and we'll talk about the implications of this. Chinese authorities have removed Plague Inc. from the Chinese App Store amid the outbreak. This is going to be, honestly, seems a little like a late reaction. If they were going to take issue with this, I thought that they would have taken issue with it much, much sooner. But hey, what are you going to do? So I have played the game. I actually have the game. It's a very enjoyable game. Whenever I fly on a plane and I hear someone cough, I get this immediate urge to play, Plague Inc. It's a very fun game, but again, it was not made in response to the coronavirus. It was not made anticipating the coronavirus. It's not making fun of in any way. Actually, if you've played the game itself, you know that it's very, kind of self-deprecating. There's, of course, little kind of advertisements for things like Star Wars in there. It's very commercialized. It's very kind of neutral. Of course, the goal is to kill, every last person on Earth, but at the same time, it's, I wouldn't say it's grossly offensive. There's it's almost like a text-based adventure. It's, pretty interesting. So they said that, obviously, whether the game was removed at the behest of the country's regulators, it's unknown, but it's still available on Apple's App Store outside of China, and they've been known to ban adult content and games with politically sensitive hidden messages. Plague Inc. has been praised for its educational value in scientific approach. And I can certainly agree with that statement when it comes to scientific approach. Like, you really have to think about how something spreads, how a fungus spreads, how mold spreads, how, a typical cold or flu or influenza, kind of spread. It's almost like a puzzle game. And for them to kind of react to this, I don't know. It's just seems like such a late reaction. So if you are in China, unfortunately, you do not get the pleasure of playing Plague Inc. anymore. Certainly strange. So with that being said, let's go ahead and we have time for at that rate, 2 more articles if we're lucky. Let's see how we do this. Okay. Court rulings have a lot of effect on services that we use every single day. And even though it may not affect you directly, this could have, of course, offsetting, implications. So this is from Ars Technica. First Amendment doesn't apply on YouTube. Judges reject PragerU lawsuit. And it seems very reminiscent of many other online platforms that people have used in the past. Whether they're saying something grossly offensive, they're saying something very objectionable, and then they say, oh, wait, First Amendment. This is something that I have a right to say. Turns out, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, which is the case that we're going to be talking about now, YouTube or any online private service that you may consider a right as a private citizen to use Twitter, you may consider it a right to use Facebook, turns out they can remove your content if they feel like it. And there is no First Amendment free speech that applies here. I think that Facebook has a certain exception, and this is why it always comes to mind. Facebook, because I think that a user was banned from using Facebook, and he took it to court and said that so many of his friends, family, coworkers, colleagues, many of his day-to-day happenings in his community happened on Facebook. He reasonably could not be banned from Facebook because it was essentially the new public town square. Cases like that just fascinate me. So with this one, First Amendment doesn't apply to YouTube, and this is at least upholding this idea that, whenever your favorite grossly offensive personality is banned from, let's say, Twitter or YouTube, this holds true. They're saying that PragerU's claim that YouTube censored PragerU's speech faces a formidable threshold hurdle. YouTube is a private entity. The free speech clause of the First Amendment prohibits the government, not a private party, from abridging speech. And that's the big thing. They can say, oh, they're taking away my free speech. The immediate and legal justification for this is that, hey, you don't like it? Go start up your own version of YouTube with completely unrestricted free speech. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. We are a private entity. We can do what we want. That has a lot of benefits, to a lot of private companies who don't have to, control how they do business based on the government. It's, really a freedom kind of thing. But hey, people try to spin it. So they mentioned that a conservative media company sued YouTube in 2017, claiming that Google-owned video site unlawfully censored its educational videos and discriminated against its rights to freedom of speech. They also mentioned, and this was in the appeals court, despite YouTube's ubiquity and its role as a public-facing platform, it remains a private forum, not a public forum subject to judicial scrutiny under the First Amendment, which is what the court ruled in the appellate court. So let's see, they also claim that Google's regulation filtering video content on YouTube is state action subject to scrutiny under the First Amendment, and while Google is obviously not a government agency, they pointed to a previous appeals court ruling to support that claim. They also mentioned that they claim that YouTube is a public forum because YouTube invites the public to use the site to engage in freedom of expression, and because YouTube represents the site, called the site a public forum for free speech in testimony before Congress. At first blush, it sounds like they don't have a case, immediately. But then they dug up some very compelling arguments that said that, hey, they might just have a case here. But then really when you dig into it, regardless of what one representative said about YouTube, it's not a public forum. It's not a public owned, it's not controlled by the government. It's not public owned. So at first they might, they don't have a case. Second thought, they might have one. Third thought, they definitely don't have one. So of course they also mentioned hosting speech doesn't make YouTube a state actor, so on and so forth. And the judges panel also rejected the claim that YouTube was guilty of false advertising under the Lanham Act, saying that YouTube statements concerning its content moderation policies do not constitute a commercial advertising or promotion as the Lanham Act requires, nor was YouTube's designation of certain of plaintiffs' videos for restricted mode part of advertising or promotion or misrepresentation of the video. YouTube's braggadocio about its commitment to free speech constitute opinions that are not subject to the Lanham Act. So there you go. YouTube as a forum, and even though it may seem like it every now and again, that hey, YouTube is so ubiquitous. YouTube is just the big juggernaut. I mean, there's Vimeo kind of way off in the distance. There's not really any other place that you can upload a video and get the kind of traction that you can on YouTube. That still doesn't make it the only game in town. So yeah, they tried their best. It just wasn't going to work. So unfortunately, that's about all the time we have here for today. The music is going to start here in just a couple of seconds. And everyone, I want to thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. And I want to thank our guest, WORX, for being on the program and really talking with us about their product. It was a lot of fun, and I definitely look forward to seeing what they have next year out at CES. I told you, CES itself, you could fill up this entire show, at least for half a year, just from the people from CES. It's a huge trade show, and we definitely enjoyed being out there. So everyone, tune in next time for more Computer America. Of course, computeramerica.com. You can find everything, including links to all of our social media. You can find the podcast, and really the podcast is anywhere you currently listen to podcasts. We wanted to make sure that instead of going out and making a Computer America app, which wouldn't take much, no, we want to make sure that Computer America is anywhere where you are. So everyone, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Until next time, have a great day, and hey, thank you so much. Bye everyone.